Hey y'all, let's talk about normal attacks in JRPGs, which can be like... Yeah, that was really normal. Maybe more like this? Okay, better, but what about this? Oh yeah, that's peak normal attack in video game. Yeah, they were doing something else back in 1999. Let me tell you of a classic PS1 game, the Legend of Legaia. The first in a series of just 2 games, Legaia is a JRPG that is so unique that I don't think I've seen anything else like it. Sorry, Legend what? You know, Legend of Legaia. That game where your normal attacks are your limbs and certain strings unleashes sick moves? Oh yeah, sure, I know about Tekken. Nah, it's more like turn-based Tekken. Turn-based Tekken, what the hell are you? Okay, bear with me here. This game is etched into my memory. I can't help it, it's probably the first ever JRPG I played. This or Legend of Mana, but whatever. I felt like revisiting Legend of Legaia while waiting for the release of Trails to Daybreak 2. So here we are, and I hope you'll join me, cause trust me, this game is not a total waste of time. This journey will have a blend of the spooky, the goofy, and the badassery, along with the typical 90s JRPG fantasy flavor of villages and minigames. So yeah, we start the game and our character is this dude, with the blue hair. He's in his teens, and he never talks. We get to name him. Okay, this is the same as Persona 3. It's funny how a series I've come to love takes after Legaia. But our guy here defaults to the name Van, so I'll just call him that throughout the video. Van here lives in the village of Rim Elm, which is surrounded by a high wall. We're introduced to our girlfriend May, which is whatever, then we talk to Master Tetsu for the combat tutorial. Okay, so how do I describe combat in this game? Well, how about it's just the most lit shit ever? Basic attacks in turn-based JRPGs usually involve just a swipe of your weapon, or maybe a combo. Well, in Legend of Legaia, you make your own combo. Your 4 limbs are mapped to left, right, high, and low. We're limited by our action gauge, so for now we can put in 3 strikes per attack. Go to combat and see the outcome. It's a 3-hit combo. Okay, cool. And then Master Tetsu tells us to put in up, down, up. And... oh, holy shit, we have special moves! Yeah, if you put in a specific sequence, you'll do what's called an art. You're more powerful and more awesome. Okay, let me just slow down. I wanna gush about this more, but it's not time yet. We're just at the tutorial. During the night, a mage appears inside the village. He orders this kaiju to blow a hole in the village wall, and this white mist starts to seep in. Everyone runs away scared, and for good reason. This ain't no ordinary mist. This is the mist, and for how silly it sounds, it's actually terrifying. In the world of Legaia, humans live in symbiosis with otherworldly beings called Seru. They can be worn by humans to acquire special powers, and they were used as tools to propel civilization's progress. These Seru pose no danger to humans in a normal setting, but that changes when the mist rolls in. Seru suddenly become feral and will indiscriminately attack humanity, and the mist is apocalypse embodied in the world of Legaia. It has pretty much covered the entire world, and humanity is on the brink of annihilation. Even hunting for food carries a high risk of death. It has recently taken May's dad, and now it has come for the village of Rim Elm. Mad Seru start pouring into the village, and Van takes one on. Now take note of the monster design of this Seru. This Guimard has a beak for a head, a spine for a torso, and blades for its tail. We'll compare it to Monster's sweet spot later. So now we have free reign to combo as we please, and I will never forget that left right left unleashes Hyper Elbow. It's the first arts I discovered on my own. There are quite a few arts in the game our characters can use, and for the most part, this is how you'll discover them. You'll be trying out random strings, hoping you'll get a new move. And when that new arts notification pops up, my god, it feels exhilarating. You can also have the game auto-form your strings for you, and you can still learn new arts this way. But if you played this game, you know the feeling of excitement when you get a new art. At the center of the village is a wilted tree. This is a Genesis tree, a rare sprout in Legaia that just so happens to have the power to drive away the mist. We approach it, and this red crystal appears out of nowhere and starts talking to us. He introduces himself as Meta, a special kind of Seru called Raw Seru. They're immune to the influence of the mist, and he offers a solution. He asks the villagers to gather at the Genesis tree, and with the power of prayers and anime on their side, they revive the tree to full bloom. Its glow dissipates the mist and the village is saved. Don't you just love this mushy fantasy stuff in 90s RPGs? The Seru meta tanks us and also gives us one heck of a mission. Journey through the land of Legaia to revive more Genesis trees and destroy the evil that is the mist. In other words, he wants us to save the world. We then wear meta in our right arm. We're basically fused now, and keep this in mind. The Genesis tree in the village will pretty much protect everyone from the mist, allowing Van to go on his grand journey. Our girlfriend gives us a piece of armor as a parting gift. We equip the thing and we're off. But I come right back just to pick up an item from inside this drawer in the item shop. So we get the point card. What's it for? Well, if you know, you know, but if you don't, just wait for it. Since this is a 90s RPG, it subscribes to the random encounter trope. It's enabled in both dungeons and the overworld exploration, and this is how we get into action on the go. We get into a fight and there's something different about this picture, and it's pretty hard to miss. Van looks a bit different in battle now. I like this about Legaia. Our characters in battle change visually as we equip weapons and armor. He's wearing mace armor and the Seru on his right arm, as well as a survival knife I bought from the village. This takes so much more extra work in part of the developers, but it's wonderful. It makes battles even more of a treat, and as we'll see later, they didn't skimp on the designs. We'll only get more drip from here on. Now, the overworld map seems really open for exploration, but it's not really. A river prevents us from going north, and the only point of interest are a fountain stop with nothing in it, and the next dungeon, Drake Castle. But damn bro, Drake Castle. This concrete structure built around the mountain looks basic even on the surface, but the inside is, whoa, the spoopy level goes up to 11. Holy shit, this atmosphere. This place is very poorly lit and the mist is everywhere. The inhabitants of the castle resorted to caging themselves with Seru to stay alive. Oh yeah, when the mist rolls in and the human is wearing a Seru, they'll turn into a mindless monster. The only way this could become even scarier is if these possessed humans could actually attack us. And fortunately, they never do. Otherwise, we'd end up slaughtering innocent people. So yeah, the atmosphere in this place is excellent. It is so scary. Aha! Random battles. Way to ruin the mood. At least the monster designs are great. Let's talk about them. The monster designs are thematic to the location. Outside in the overworld, we fight generic monsters like slimes, goblins, oversized butterflies, JRPG stuff. And inside the castle, we encounter skeletons and floating armor pieces. We also encounter Gimards again, but this time we have a chance of absorbing their magic into our Seru. Seru mobs are recognized by the elemental icon displayed alongside their name. This is the indication that we can assimilate them upon taking them down. Once absorbed, we can summon them via the Seru command in battle. This is our magic, and our summons can do a lot of damage, but we're very limited on uses because of our limited MP pool. The only way to recover MP is by using items or resting in town, and there are very little MP items at the start of the game. I think we find less than 5, and they only recover 50 MP. Graphically, I have to say the texture work on everything during battles are quite detailed. Doesn't transfer outside of battle though. Everything is in chibi scale with barely any textures. But in battle, everything comes to life. We'll really gush about battles once we get to the first boss. We find a peculiar item called Fire Book 1. It's a single-use item that teaches Van his first hyper art, which I'll discuss soon. Progress to the back of the castle and we exit from the other side. Thus, we arrive at the foot of Mount Rikuroa. Meta senses a Genesis tree at its summit, but also other beings. And then all of a sudden, our perspective is whisked away to a cave to the north of the mountain. And we gain control of this red-haired girl. She's our second party member. We can also change her name if we so desire, but since I'm creatively bankrupt, I'm going with her default name of Noah. Noah is secluded from everything else in Legaia. She's raised by a wolf possessed by a green Seru, Terra. And we really start to see the genuine benevolence of the Seru here. Terra here has raised Noah to be capable of defending herself. She helps us practice on some Piora monsters inside the cave. In gameplay terms, this is to help Noah catch up in strength to Van. All party members we gain start at level 1, and by the time Noah and Van converge, they should be around the same strength. Noah is a joy to use in battle. She starts with higher agility, thus a longer action gauge. I should also mention the Spirit command. Choosing this will extend the action gauge of our next attack, and it serves a secondary function. Whenever someone uses spirit, they'll actually take less damage from attacks, and also increases our chance of blocking. Yeah, just like in fighting games, attacks can be blocked by both friend and foe. But unlike in fighting games, whether you do or not is entirely random. After our training session with Piurus, we return to camp. But on the way, we experience an earthquake, and it seems a hole is opened up to the outside. Noah and Terra's time of peace is up. The mist has caught up to them, and it's time to head for Mount Rikuroa's Genesis tree. On our way there, Terra will assist us in battle. Her health values are hidden because she pretty much can't die. Plus, she will heal Noah when at low health. This means we can't actually get a game over while she's on our side, and we can safely catch up to Van's level on our way to the Genesis tree. We also encountered the Seru Vera, our first light magic. This is crucial as Vera is a healing Seru, and good healing is hard to come by at this point. Yet, Noah's unable to absorb magic because she's not actually wearing raw Seru yet. At the summit, we are met by Zeto, the same guy that attacked Rim Elm. And turns out he's also responsible for the cave blowing open. He's on an objective to systematically eradicate the survivors of the mist. He summons his pet Caruban to eliminate us, and Caruban takes down Terra in just one swoop. So Terra can no longer fight, and Caruban sets its eyes on Noah. So our control switches back to Van, and I make sure to absorb Vera into meta. So now we have healing magic. It'll be our main method of healing for the first part of the game. Then we arrive just in time to help Noah. Thus, the first boss fight of the game begins against Caruban. And I think it's here that the combat in the game really clicks in. I absolutely love it, and I'm gonna try my best to enumerate as to why. Number 1 is the art system. We already know the basics. Input commands and do cool shit. So let's make it even cooler. Since our level is higher now, we have more blocks to chain multiple arts into combos. You can use the last input of an art as a buffer to another. Say for example, up down up gives us somersault, and up down left will execute slash kick. Well, we can do both with just 5 blocks by doing up, down, left. Once you discover this, it is fantastic. Note that I've used a guide to unlock arts for this run because the guessing game is only fun for your first time around. Chaining arts leads to more damage overall and actually forms a puzzle game of sorts. You're free to figure out art strings to find a combo that you like. We're only limited by our arts points or AP. Using arts requires a specific amount displayed in the command list. If you try to execute arts without any AP, we still get normal attacks, but the art themselves won't trigger. And there are only 3 ways to gain AP. The most reliable way is by using Spirit, which restores 32 AP. But we also regain AP whenever we get damaged, as well as by landing hits on foes, although this last one is the least effective. There's also the Hyper Arts. They're a lot more powerful than normal arts, but also cost more AP to use. Rather than executing the move at the end of the string, the whole command is the art. And there's always a super flash to indicate it. And of course, they're also really cool. Van's first Hyper Art is Tornado Flame, which is, of course, a Shoryuken. Reason number 2 combat is awesome is the minutia, the small details that add up to so much. The contextual presence of the mist in the background is just one of them. We've also discussed how our characters can change visually depending on our equipment, but there's a lot more. Not only does each limb correspond to a different attack, but equipping different gear will actually change the animation. When Van is unarmed, he'll do straight punches, but give a survival knight to him, and instead he'll do a slashing move. Noah can equip claw knuckles that she jabs with, but she can also equip batons that she'll smack enemies with overhead. Even hurt animations also vary up depending on where someone is hit. Getting hit high and low is different for most humanoid enemies. This is normal practice in fighting games, but in JRPGs, not so much. The art system also extends to the enemies. They too string their attacks together in parts. It is simply a joy to watch fights unfold, yet it wouldn't be complete without number 3. The sounds. It is a treat to the ears listening to attacks in this game. Punches and kicks sound visceral, and bites and slashes feel chunky. There are loads of additional swooshing and charging sounds, and arts with multiple hits blow up in your ears. You can feel the power behind them. The characters' grunts also fit quite well. The excellent battle sounds extends to enemy attacks and our Seru summons. It feels like cinema every time, especially so against bosses. I'll chalk reason number 4 up to that. Cinematic attacks, be it from our magic or big boss specials, are a spectacle. They all have unique, detailed animations. When you die from a boss's special attack, you remember it well because even though you lost, it was still so cool. I really do think the presentation of Legaia's combat is ahead of its time, but it's not perfect. The biggest opportunity here is the battle music. The normal theme is just not catchy. The boss music versus Caruban though, now that's where it's at. In fact, the contrast in effectiveness actually serves to enhance the boss battles even further. This music gives us a feel that our opponent is indeed formidable. Speaking of the music, the soundtrack of Legend of Legaia is actually alright. Most tracks are memorable enough that when I heard them again, I will remember Legend of Legaia. And my favorite track is the Cave of Warmth, the tune that plays inside Noah's starting cave. It is just so catchy, soothing, and playful at the same time. Now for the boss fight itself, and contrary to the presentation, the mechanics are a bit strange. Van takes less damage from the boss, partially because of his armor, but also because of his alignment. You see, each character is naturally aligned with an element, and Van's is fire, which means he resists Caruban's attacks. And it's not just the fire breaths too, even normal attacks are considered elemental. Likewise, Van will also do reduced damage to Caruban. Noah, on the other hand, hits like a truck in comparison. Noah is aligned to wind, so she deals neutral damage to fire. Not only that, the increased arts blocks Noah has actually puts her damage output beyond Van's during the early game. But this also means Noah takes more damage from Caruban. He can shave off 70% of Noah's health in just one turn. Thankfully, we have Van. He can summon Vera to help with healing. Bosses have tons of HP that we have to chew through, and we can't see their remaining total. However, there is one way to tell whether you're close to victory or not. Whenever we fought normal enemies, they would always fly back after the final hit. This is because we're dealing more than 25% of their max HP to them. We're not doing that much to Caruban, so he's not budging after our attacks, but not for long. Once bosses are below 25% health, they'll stagger backwards. This indicates they're critically hurt, and we're close to victory. And once Caruban is down, we proceed to revive the Genesis tree. The surrounding area is freed from the mist, and Drake Castle's inhabitants return to normal. The Seru Terra also detaches from the wolf. It now fuses with Noah's left arm, though getting her first Seru summon will come later. This is because when the mist disappears in an area, so does the Seru that we can absorb. Also, whenever we revive a tree, our current Seru levels up. This increases our damage with the limbs they're attached to, but it also changes the Seru visually in battle, and it happens bit by bit. Now, up until this point, Noah is also silent, but suddenly this changes. She starts talking to Van. I don't think I played any other game that turns off your character's speech only when you're controlling them directly. Noah asks to join Van on her journey, but we could say no, just to be mean to her. I mean, am I a bad person for wanting to see what happens, even if it makes Noah sad? Yes, you are a bad person for that. Oh, we have no choice anyway. We have to say yes eventually. So we're officially a team now. We return to Drake Castle, and the king gives us a key to cross the river. But first though, we have to pass through a bazaar that's set up right outside Drake Castle. The game takes some time here to flesh out Noah's personality, and I think it's impossible to dislike her. Being raised by a wolf, she's innocent and naive. She doesn't even know about the concept of purchasing stuff, but she tries her best to learn about the world and be a good person. Her expressiveness gives life to any conversation she's part in. I know she's my favorite character. Overall, she's just so cute. And you know I like cute and expressive. You've seen my animations. This merchant sells one of the best accessories in the game. Defender Chains increases our chances of blocking attacks. Its effect is so good that it'll make our characters so much tankier. They would be a boon to my run, but I'm trying not to grind in this game, so I don't have the cash to buy one. Each party member has 3 accessory slots, and while armor pieces only affect our attack and defense, accessories have special effects. And this is the primary way we can formulate a strategy for battles ahead. They could also have overworld effects, like decreasing or increasing the encounter rate, or increasing the chances of a preemptive strike during combat. What else would I buy? Oh yeah, new tights for Noah. She's now sporting a red look. It's beautiful and I love it. We drain water from the river and pick up the Windbook 1 from the cavity. Noah now has her first hyper art. Frost Breath is okay, but it actually pales in comparison to her normal arts because she has enough blocks to form more powerful combos. The hyper art is still cool though. I should also mention status effects. There's only a few in the game. Venom flies were capable of poisoning us, but the damage per turn is so low it barely does anything. But there's also Numb, which de-speed the Lipians can inflict. Any numbed character will be unable to act until they're cured or takes damage. It's annoying, but we only see it here, really. I'll discuss new status effects as we encounter them, and trust me, it won't come up much. Across the river, we arrive at a monastery. It's protected from the mist by a cleansing chamber of sorts. Flip the switch and propellers turn on to filter mist from the room. Then the door into the monastery opens. This is quite a world-building piece, actually. The mist is so deadly, humanity have to come up with complex ways like this to protect themselves. We're also supposed to rescue someone here, and that's the mother of Van's girlfriend May, and here she is. Her name's Maya, although she can't go home yet until the mist outside is cleared. With the help of the monastery's monks, we're to head north. There are 2 Genesis trees to revive, one in West Voss Forest and another in East Voss. Okay, so get this. The game actually asks us which one we want to visit, implying we can influence the course of the story. But not quite. We also meet the 2 master monks of the monastery. The master monk with red hair, his name is Songi, will always insist on him going to East Voss, so we have no choice. Our 3rd and last party member joins us though. The other master monk is Gala, and he doesn't have his own solo arc. Instead, he just joins us at level 1. Don't worry though, he'll catch up on levels pretty quickly. On our way to West Voss, we take a slight detour to this path. The mist ahead of this valley is so thick that even the raw Seru wouldn't be able to handle it. And this is because just beyond is the source of the mist, a mist generator. We can actually miss out on this scene completely because once the next tree is revived, this area becomes inaccessible. And it has a very important item, the Ivory Book, an accessory that makes absorbing Seru magic so much easier. Although it can be bought at shops later on, I welcome getting it this early. I should also mention that this is one of the very few moments you're rewarded for exploring the world. For the most part, progression in the game is very linear. Legaia's map seems vast, but there's actually nothing of interest off the beaten path. And let me tell you now, there are no optional dungeons in this game. Exploration is not one of Legaia's strengths. Now how's Gala in combat? Well, he sucks. His arts gauge only goes up to 2 attacks, 4 if charged with spirit. Using him is a miserable experience, and he's supposed to be a master monk? He's jabbing all day at the monastery, so it doesn't make sense that he's this incapable. But maybe it's just because he's at low level. Let's keep going. Inside West Voss Forest, we're presented with an opportunity to have Noah acquire the Seru Vera. Summon magic is powerful and all, but money and recovery items are tight in early game. Thankfully, we can use healing magic even outside of battle. And with enough uses, magic can actually level up. Higher level magic will acquire bonus effects. For example, once Vera reaches level 3, it'll be able to cure the Venom status, as well as be more potent for healing. On the other hand, offensive magic can apply stat debuffs to enemies. The effect depends on the element. For example, fire magic can debuff attack at higher levels. And you might be thinking this sounds great, but there's a design flaw here that I'll get into later when I really start using magic. Hey, there's this plant in the forest. It's in front of the raging river. It grows into a bridge. Noah wants to eat it. Gala says she can't. We find the Genesis tree, but something's up. Its transparent trunk is an indication this tree is dead. But from the, corpse? I'm not sure what to call this. What do you call the bodies of dead trees? From the thing pops out a raw Seru egg. Ooh, I wonder who it's for. Could be anyone. Then we hear an explosion from the direction of the monastery. We rush to return and find the sanitizing mechanism has been destroyed. Many monks lie dead from fighting the Seru, and survivors have locked themselves inside a singular room with no hopes of fighting back. Maya, however, has been possessed by Seru. Noah tries to save her by forcefully ripping the Seru off, but this will not work. Within the mist, human and Seru share one life, and forcefully separating them will kill both beings. And the elder monk tells us of what happened. The redhead guy Songi has betrayed everyone. Why? Well, we're about to find out. The party heads to East Voss Forest to check on the Genesis tree there, and they find it. Wilted, sure, but fortunately alive. Before we could revive it though, Songi appears, and on his right arm is a Seru. This was his plan all along. It's likely that he knew the Genesis tree of West Voss was no good. The mist generator was so close it poisoned the tree to death. Songi also took interest in the party's current raw Seru and coveted its power, all because he wanted strength to defeat his rival Gala. And it actually worked. Gala challenged Songi one-on-one and was utterly defeated in this Dragon Ball Z. I'm sorry, it just looks really silly. Look at Gala's punching. Songi then summons 2 Seru for us to fight. And now here's an interesting situation. We're fighting a pair of Viguros, and they have the thunder icon right beside their name, which means these are absorbable. This fight has the difficulty of a boss fight, but with the potential reward of getting powerful magic early. But then again, these are still considered normal enemies, which means, see, within the Voss forest, we encounter this Seru called Naito. It's a unique summon, the only non-healing one that doesn't do damage, but instead can either confuse or insta-kill a target. This is one of the few ways we can apply status effects to enemies, and it works against the Viguros. Confusing one of them will essentially disable them. It won't attack us again until we damage and remove the confused status. Doing this trivializes the fight. I discovered this as a kid and I will never forget it. And that's where I learned that playing risky and experimental is rewarding. And when Van KO'd the second Viguro, it was assimilated into magic. This is a mid-game attack summon, so it's quite powerful. But it has a whopping 72 MP cost. Yeah, it's strong, but it's not really worth using. Songi decides to dip out because, well, it's a JRPG, so of course his reasoning is that he wants a better challenge. I'm sure that decision's not gonna come back and bite him in the ass later, right? We revive the Genesis tree, and the Seru egg we were carrying around hatches into the Thunder Seru Ozma. He chooses Gala as its wielder. Didn't see that coming, huh? It's also hard to ignore the issue here though. Gala has a deep hatred towards Seru because, well, his parents were killed by them. It's why he decided to be a Biran monk. They strictly disapprove of wearing Seru. Yet when Ozma asks for Gala's cooperation, he doesn't even hesitate. Yeah, he wants to knock some sense into his friend Songi, but even so, it feels unnatural that he didn't even have the slightest amount of trepidation. The 3 Genesis trees we revived also combine to dissipate the thick mist surrounding the mist generator. Therefore, it's time for us to enter Zeto's dungeon, the final dungeon. Or so I thought. The generator's aesthetic is out of place in the world of Legaia, but this makes sense considering the Seru's origin. Regular monsters take the form of familiar creatures. You have butterflies, goblins, ostriches, and frogs. In comparison, Seru physiology is alien, mostly anyway. Theater looks like a literal space creature, Nidos look like demon fruit, and Xenoars are like hands that use their whole bodies to punch and bash their foes. Many Seru also don't have eyes. As we'll find out later, Seru come from another world, so their aesthetic makes sense. It's only the water Seru that look native to Earth for some reason. Maybe it's connected to water not existing anywhere else in space? Oh well, it's better than getting something based on ice cream. We find a book for Gala's first hyper art, Thunder Punch. Man, speaking of Pokemon, now here's a little detail that you may have not noticed. Every hyper art in this game starts with the arm our hero's Seru is equipped to. It tells us that these powerful arts would not be possible without them, as they channel the magical elements into the attack themselves. And it's even true mechanics-wise. You can use cheats to get the books early, but without Seru equipped, the hyper arts just won't come out. Although you normally wouldn't be able to know this because in normal play, no character can get their hyper arts book before fusing with their Seru. Deeper into the dungeon we go, and we again encounter Songi. Gala requests that he takes him on alone, and so it's a one-on-one fight. Encountering Songi is an event on its own every time. The guy is so evil that he gets his very own unique boss battle music. Plus, he does a flaming Hadouken. You think the devs are inspired by Akuma? The fight, as memorable as it is, isn't anything special mechanically. It's easy to fend off Songi's attacks because Gala just so happens to be the tankiest of our heroes. Not only that, he also boasts the most powerful magic. Gala is aligned with the element of thunder, which has some of the strongest summons in the game. Casting Theater here dealt 400 damage to Songi, and that's respectable for this early in the game. The solo fight also gave us enough experience to match Gala's level with everyone. It's an equalizer of sorts. And so, Songi declares the fight a draw. Wait, what the hell? You can't do that. And there he goes, but now that he's out of the way, we enter the nexus of the dungeon and find the Mist Generator. It's here that we face off against the man that conspired to destroy Rim Elm, Zeto. And I think this is historically accurate. Anyway, here's this giant enemy crab. Zeto's the first boss to present a trend that will continue throughout the game's bosses. Powerful special moves that hit the entire party. In Zeto's case, it's the Big Wave attack, which can do well over 500 damage. It can knock out Noah in just one hit. There's a solution, however. This special move is telegraphed for a turn. Zeto will first use Call Wave, and the game warns us of a powerful attack on the next turn. This is where the Spirit command starts seeing significant use. When spirited, special attacks from enemies will reduce by well over 60% effectiveness. Not only is Spirit a power-up mechanic, it's also used for defensive purposes. I used the Viguro summon here, and it didn't actually do much damage. I expected much more than just 500 for the 64 MP cost. Problem was, Viguro's Plasma Storm is an AoE attack, meaning it's not the best choice against single targets. It won't be until later that we'll get single target magic that's really worth using. And that's actually it for the boss fight. Simple, right? Zeto has 5,000 HP in total, so the fight took a while, but with my knowledge of the game, it was actually a trivial fight. And that's the final boss. We destroy the mist generator with the power of the Seru. There's no more mist in the map, and thus the world is saved. Maya returns to Rim Elm to be with her daughter, and Noah gives us a kiss for our efforts. Aha! Where's the end credits? Yes, this is what actually came to my mind as a kid. And I could see why too. Look at the map screen. We've actually visited every point of interest there is. Also, Zeto had unique battle music, so I thought he was the final boss. Plus, we destroyed the source of the mist, so what else is there to do? Yet, the game goes on. What we did was eradicate the mist only in Drake Kingdom. Travel to the north and we'll find a cave. Inside is a rest stop where the party dreams together. We're at an unknown place and someone named Hari speaks to us. He tells us to go to a town called Octam, so we have our next objective. The cave then tunnels into the next world map, Sibuku's Islands. And yeah, I said next world map. This is an entirely new overworld to explore, and it's here that I realized that this game was far from over. But it's also about to take a drastic turn for the exploitative. We are clearly supposed to investigate the mist-ridden town of Jeremy right away, but I only stopped by it first, because I want to head straight to the village of Vidna. You'd be surprised to know that although the town is out in the open, it's free from the mist. It's all because of the village's 3 windmills. They're apparently enough to keep the mist away. Well, that doesn't make sense because windmills don't cause winds, rather they spin because of winds. Well, actually, Vidna's different. Their windmills are powered by thermal energy from underground. Another example of humanity's ingenuity against the mist. The villagers are even cozy enough to wear Seru without worry. Good thing too, because we're about to blow this game wide open with the slot machines. Why? Well, gold is hard to come by in this game. The only source we have is from monster drops. You'd have to grind pretty heavily to be consistently up to date in armor, because they're not cheap. Holy shit, those prizes. The slot machines are the best source of gold if you don't want to fight, and we're not gambling here. These slots can be won with good timing. The goal is to get either a row of punches or kicks. Sometimes the game will rig the wheel to prevent you from getting a match, which is, you know, how real slot machines work, by the way. But oftentimes, good timing will actually work. Once we get a punch or a kick match, a bonus game will begin. The reels will be replaced by numbers from 1 to 10, and the payout is the 3 numbers in the center row multiplied together. The maximum reward is 10 times 10 times 10, so 1,000 coins. Considering we only need 3 tokens, that's 300 gold per spin, the conversion is huge. Kicks give 1 bonus game, but punches will give 3. So it's possible to get 3,000 tokens in just that moment. But how do we get cash from here? Well, we can't directly convert our tokens to gold, but we can instead exchange them for items. The best token to gold conversion is by trading 50 tokens per Phoenix, the revival item in this game, and sell them for 800 gold a pop. Thus, 1,000 tokens converts to 16,000 gold. For context, an average gold drop per random battle gives 300 gold. Doesn't take long to get a good amount of tokens too. 10 minutes on this thing and I already have 6k, which converts to 96,000 gold. So I spend my cash to buy the best armor around. You might also notice that we're earning points in our point card per purchase. 5% of the money we spend is added to our points. But what are the points for? Well, let me demonstrate. For this, I return to Rim Elm and approach this tree. It has bees that drag us into a surprise battle. And at this point of the game, this is a tough fight because we're locked out of summoning Seru. This probably caught a lot of players off guard. Yes, I'm one of those players, so shut up. Since the most dangerous target is the Queen Bee, I decide to take it out immediately, and I do so by using the point card. The points we stored are converted to direct damage to our target's health, and I just happen to have 2,900 points. Bye bye, Queen Bee. So yeah, that's the point card. We can't control how much it dumps though, so usually you'll just use this once or twice in a single playthrough. But as you can see, you can really exploit this with the slot machines. But don't worry, I'm not going that route because wouldn't you know it, grinding slot machines is also boring. We also bought several Doors of Wind. These are consumables that enable fast travel to places we've already visited. Since I already dropped by Jeremy earlier, we just whisk on over there. Now back to regular Legaia. The town of Jeremy, being contaminated by the mist, is still spoopy central. Plenty of random encounters to go around. But I bought something extra from Vidna, the Golden Compass. While we're equipped with this accessory, we have a better chance of getting preemptive attacks. And the boost is huge. I think 2/3 of my encounters are preemptive attacks. It might even be 3/4. So we have a huge advantage now versus random encounters, which I fully exploit by running away most of the time. Escape is guaranteed during a preemptive strike, you see, and while battles feel amazing in Legaia, them encounters are, well, slow and dumb. There's a reason modern JRPGs have stepped away from this trope. This town has its own Genesis tree, sitting atop the tower in town. It's being chewed on by this ugly as hell thing. And it's the next boss. This is the Berserker. Now we're in deep shit. This thing, whatever it is, yeah, what even is this thing? This butthead is regarded as the hardest boss in Legend of Legaia. There are two main concerns. The first is the special attack Spore Gas. It inflicts the status effect Rot. It disables individual limbs on a character, limiting their options when attacking. If every limb is rotted, you're completely locked out. We can cure rot with either medicine or with healing magic. However, magic will only cure rot at level 5 and above. My Vera is not quite there yet. At least rot doesn't prevent Seru magic. The second concern in this fight is Stone Circle. Zeto's big wave has nothing on this Berserker special. Stone Circle does a bit more damage, but it's not telegraphed. Once the boss's health drops below 50%, they'll start spamming this. From there, it becomes difficult to keep the party healthy enough to survive. No one gets one hit killed by Spore Gas too. I have plenty of revives, but not enough healing power. A Stone Circle cast at a bad time wiped me. It's my first game over for this run. The suggested way to prepare for Berserker is to go to another town first to get the second healing magic, the Light Seru Orb. Not only does it heal more than Vera, it actually affects the entire party. You can see how having this summon helps in surviving Stone Circle effectively. But we're here to appreciate Legend of Legaia throughout, even its quirks. One of them is that Berserker for some reason is vulnerable to Nido's effects. You know, that Dark Seru summon that either confuses or insta-kills a target. I retry the battle and the very first cast of Naito triggers the insta-kill. That's it, XP and gold gained, fight's over. Now it makes sense that Viguros can be affected because 1, they're regular Seru that can be raw Seru absorbed, and 2, during the battle, the generic music plays. But not with the Berserker, this one feels like a proper boss fight. Cutscene before the fight? Check. Boss music? Check. High HP and deadly damage? Check and check. So this has to be an oversight in the developer's part. But hey, we did it! We revived the Genesis tree, our raw Seru gains another level, and I guess we just resume our search for Octam. To the north of Vidna is a place called Ratayu. We can't enter because of hot steam bursting from underground. This isn't where we're supposed to go then. So we journey a bit further east and we find Octam at last. And it's here that we get the Orb Seru. Give me your healing magic, you orb. Hell yeah, we did it. Octam is another town desolated by the mist, yet we cannot save it with a Genesis tree. There just isn't one anywhere nearby. But we notice that there's nobody around. We enter the shrine in town and unlock a secret passage. There's an elevator that leads deep underground. And it's here that we run into Kara, a wandering thief that informs us of the situation. Octam's inhabitants have made an underground shelter, and the elevator's disabled to keep them safe. She also tells us of the treasure she found, a star pearl that she sold to a jeweler in Jeremy. We also notice that Kara isn't wearing Seru, yet she's safe in the mist. Well, I'll just spoil it here. She later reveals that she's instead protected by a special raw Seru egg. So that explains that. Also, fun fact, the music that plays during Kara's scenes may be familiar to some PS1 players. That's because it's taken directly from another game, Alundra. As to why that is, I have no idea. These two games are made by different developers. The only thing they have in common is that they're both published by Sony Computer Entertainment. We head back to Jeremy to meet the jeweler Kara mentioned. This guy named Zalan. After a small favor of delivering a letter to his son in Vidna, he gives us the Star Pearl as thanks, and we already know what to use this. The books inside Octam's shrine is actually a direct message to the Seru heroes, where to go to the Gate of Shadows, an alternative path to underground Octam. And it's here that we first encounter the Delilas, 3 sibling warriors of the mist that wants to challenge us to one-on-one battles. But not today though, they just introduced themselves, Power Rangers / Ginyu Force style. And I think Noah's a fan. This is so silly, it's brilliant. Opening the quote-unquote Gate of Shadows is pretty simple. We have to activate colors on these 4 rocks around the central monument. We don't have to guess though, the answer is shown in Octam's shrine. Commit that to memory and return to the gate. Once we solve the puzzle, the flower monument blooms. Toss the Star Pearl inside and a bubble grows at the center. Go inside the bubble and it takes us underground. I have no questions. Nope, everything about this makes 100% sense. Not. Whatever, let's move on. Traversing the underground path leads us to Octam's shelter, and the townspeople are alive and well. The mist hasn't reached this place yet, but the ground beneath them is collapsing bit by bit. It seems tremors have been plaguing the town lately. But alas, we meet Hari at last. He is, well, they actually. These 3 babies are all Hari, and they're basically gods of time, meaning they pretty much know everything. They give us some crucial guidance on how to defeat the mist, and then they go back to sleep. I should summarize this, here we go. Ever since Noah could remember, she's been having dreams about her parents calling out to her. They wish to see their daughter again, but they are trapped deep within the Kingdom of the Mist. Hari has given that place a name, the town of Conkram in Callisto Kingdom, so we have another goal. Upon leaving Hari's house though, the ground beneath it collapses. So Hari's dead, but actually no. They're gods, remember? They live on as spirits and says they knew that was going to happen and that we'll meet again someday. Basic JRPG mushy stuff. But we're also told that we can save the town from further tragedy by going deeper underground. So off to the fire path we go. And it's here that we encounter the Seru Nova. It's the 2nd tier wind magic summon and the first powerful single target magic we have. And my playstyle changes from here. This is because underground Octam is the earliest location in the game where we can buy MP recovery items. Halt! Future Vivi here to say what I said here is wrong. I actually missed an item in Drake Castle, which, can you blame me? It is so well hidden. The platinum card is only obtainable if you check this hole in the wall. Having this on you will unlock some secret items in the shops in the game. Nothing that would have changed the course of the playthrough though. But with this, we can buy magic leaves as early as Biron Monastery, so underground Octam is not the earliest point. But it wouldn't have made a difference cause you see, stocking up on these wouldn't normally be viable because they're not cheap. Recovering just 50 MP is 1000 gold apiece. I guess the devs really wanted to limit your use of magic, but I'm gonna go ham with magic in this playthrough, and now I get to discuss attack magic in detail. They are quite powerful, but can further be boosted by having a character with a matching alignment cast it. Thus, Gala would do more damage if he were to cast Viguro, which he can't at this point because he didn't have the Seru yet in that fight. Noah, the wind aligned, would also be the best user for Nova, but I don't think that's the best choice. See, if you actually look at Gala's overall stats, he's actually really strong in every aspect. That includes int and MP pool. You wouldn't feel it in combat though because his agility and speed are pathetic. He has less actions per turn, which severely limits his attack output, and he moves last per turn. He does make a good healer though, since he can tank lots of hits with his high HP and defense. But for this run, I'm gonna use him as a pure magic user. And Noah will be my healer. Healing magic is not SMP intensive, so her low MP pool is fine. But her high speed will allow her to heal the party up before the enemy can attack again. And Van will do whatever. With the money exploit, I can keep Gala's MP topped up to spam magic. It's necessary too, as the only way to level up offensive magic is by using them in combat. And leveling them up will increase their damage output. Also, starting at level 3 and above, magic will also have a debuff effect. But there is a huge problem with this, which I'll bring up during the next boss fight against this guy. His name is Xain, and he's responsible for the localized earthquakes. He's punching the pillars that support underground Octam, so we challenge him to a fight, but not before he talks to us for a bit. I actually don't exactly know what Xain is lore-wise. Is he a Seru? Is he human? Why can he talk to us? Ah well, let's discuss the magic debuff thing. I cast Nova level 4, which should now apply a 5% speed debuff. And... yup, the debuffs don't work on bosses. There is only a small chance of actually applying a debuff. I think it happens 1 out of 8 times. So let me get this straight. On one hand, your magic will be so strong that it'll kill regular mobs before you can even apply a debuff. And on the other, you can hit bosses with plenty of magic attacks, but debuffing them is unreliable. That is dumb. I'm not after the debuff anyway. One Nova cast from Gala does well over 1,000. Noah can do 1,100 with her normals and arts, but that's with a spirit buff. It's also convenient that Vidna's token exchange has a spirit jewel. I equip it to Gala to reduce his MP consumption by 25%. Yeah, offensive magic is ridiculously resource intensive. The healing magic orb only costs 18, but Nova costs 48. This is another reason why magic focus builds are impractical in normal play. You'd have to grind so much to make casting even worth it. Oh, and you can't skip these summon animations. They are gonna get old quick. For the boss itself, Saint's damage output is even higher than Berserker, but he's actually more manageable because his AoE attack is telegraphed. However, I think my constant running away from fights is starting to catch up to me. I am underleveled, thus even Gala can go down in just 1 turn from Xain's attacks. I lost on my first attempt. We'll have to play smart to get through this. So I equipped Defender Chains and HP bonus accessories. Now Van and Gala can survive Xain's attacks. Noah's too frail to bother with though, I'll just revive her whenever she gets KO'd. From here, I just spam Nova summons like there's no tomorrow. I do have to spend some actions to restore Gala's MP when he's running low, but I'm definitely using normal attacks less and less from this point on. Xain goes down eventually, but he turns into a trinket. I guess he's a Seru that possessed a bull or something? He uses the last of his strength to cast a curse on us by freezing the surrounding molten lava solid. At first I had no idea what the point was, but since this video is going by quick, maybe you can guess what it does. And I cannot believe this, I'm already running low on cash, so I decided to return to Vidna. And something's changed. The windmills, they've stopped. And yeah, this is the effect of Xain's curse. The town of Vidna has fallen to the mist. It's quite eerie seeing the contrast of the two environments firsthand. The mist is so terrifying it takes moments for an entire village to crumble. And crap, the slot machine! Where is it? Oh, there it is. It's in the emergency underground shelter along with some of the villagers. What admirable dedication to enabling our exploit. Give this NPC an award, why don't we? There's only one way to free Vidna from the mist. We have to destroy the mist generator of this region. And to get to it, we have to pass through the town of Raytube. And luckily, the lava freezing over also opened up our path into town. As expected, the mist is all over this place as well. Yet, inside the palace, we meet the town's leader, Lord Saryu. He's wearing Seru, yet he can communicate with us. He asks us to revive the Genesis tree found atop Mount Latona so that he could be with his bride. Only then will he open the path to the mist generator. While climbing Mount Latona, we encounter these Mushura, our first Earth Seru magic. I only mention this because I make sure to absorb it. It'll actually be useful later in a specific fight. At the summit, we find the Genesis tree surrounded by a barrier, as well as a familiar face. Songi challenges us to another battle, and this time, everyone has to pitch in to beat him. If we win, he says he'll remove the barrier. And this fight is... wow, is this fight simple or what? Songi has 3 attacks, his normals, a single target special called Hyper Lightning, and his AoE is Hyper Crush. Boss AoEs pretty much stop being telegraphed from here on too. So maybe you realize, right? All Songi will do is deal damage. High damage, sure, but it's all just damage. I'd say this is the point that Legend of Legaia starts to stagnate a bit. I've gushed about the presentation of the battles, and it's still a sight to behold. Songi's model is designed in a way that makes him look freakishly tainted by evil. His skin and hair turns pale, and his roster is covering his entire right arm. The pace of Songi's growth is something else. Under the hood, however, there isn't much to Legaia's combat. cool attacks, mostly generic effects. And by generic, I mean all it does is do damage. From here on, most boss fights will just be a matter of keeping our heroes healthy while keeping an offense up. It only takes one party member to heal everyone, so keeping up our attacks isn't a problem. This is why grinding levels in Legend of Legaia is so effective. It's downright mandatory at times. I'm trying to curb this fact about the game this run though, so I'll continue running for most random encounters. So Songi keeps his word and removes the barrier upon his defeat, although he still manages to retreat. This is far from our last encounter with him. We revive the tree, Rasaru level up, yada yada, return to Ratayu, and the villagers are... Wow, they don't like what we just did. Everyone wants to go back to the mist. Damn, this town is depressing as hell. And apparently, it's all because of Lord Saryu's actions. The brides he spoke of? Well, actually, they're young women from the village. Saryu will demand the families hand over their daughters to be surrendered to him as Seru brides. Resistance is met with tyranny, so nobody can fight back. Noah wants to help out though, so she decides to take the place of the next Seru bride. Thus, she's taken to a secret chamber within Raytube Castle. In here, the past Seru brides are kept in stasis, slowly being drained of their life force by a creature kept within, and evil scientists here blurt out its identity. It's Juggernaut! Holy crap. Evidently, Saryu wanted the mist gone so he could continue feeding this massive beast. Thus, Van and Gala are off to rescue Noah. But first, we have to get through these two, the Earth Seru Kemaro. If you play this game, you probably know the value of absorbing their magic here, and I was lucky enough to get both Van and Gala to absorb them. Wow, this is fantastic. We reunite with Noah and snap her out of her hypnosis. Then Saryu shows his true colors. His Seru takes form and transform him into Von Saryu. And I don't know if it's just me, I think this boss looks so damn cool. The fight starts off normal, Saryu does normal attacks and his choice AoE is Earthquake. Nothing new and actually pretty weak for a boss. Having absorbed Kemaro, I go in heavy and fast. Kemaro is the second tier Earth Seru magic, but is the second most powerful single target magic attack in the game. Nova level 7 can reach 1400, but Kemaro starts off with over 1700. This damage output sure sped up the fight, but going all out right away was a bad idea. Halfway through the fight, Van Saryu will tap into Juggernaut's power to increase his overall strength. His attacks become deadly, and having consumed my MP early on, I couldn't take out Saryu before the party was overwhelmed. Yet again, I am defeated, so I made a simple change on my second attempt. For the first half of Saryu's HP, we'll revert to the old reliable way of attacking with arts. Once we deal enough damage, we spam Kemaro, and it worked like a charm. The same turn Saryu casted Jugger power, Van and Gala took him down with 2 Kemaro attacks. Now that was a satisfying finish. With Von Saryu defeated, his Seru comes off and fades away, and Lord Saryu comes to his senses. He was apparently being influenced by the Seru. In reality, he is a benevolent leader, so he puts a stop to Juggernaut's mechanism. But hey, do you want more evidence that Noah's the most adorable girl ever? Well, check this out. Noah actually waves goodbye to Juggernaut twice. I am melting. Saryu then reveals the nature of the Seru he wore, a different class of Seru called Sim Seru. These Seru are special because they're man-made, and thus can serve a variety of purposes. Unfortunately, they're all used for sinister things. But now we proceed on to the Mist Generator, Dohati's Castle. Who's Dohati, you ask? Ah, good question. Hey look, it's Aluru, the only light Seru magic in the game that actually does damage instead of healing. Plus, it has a chance of insta-kill too. This thing is so bad in comparison to Kemaro. The damage is inferior, the insta-kill won't work on bosses, and it costs 90 MP to cast. Why would you use this over Kemaro's 72 MP? Maybe you can say it's pretty good if you didn't manage to absorb Kemaro earlier, but I still think it's bad because of that MP cost. You'll barely be able to use this thing in normal play. Okay, but seriously, who is Dohati? It's this guy! Yep, the boss of the Mist Generator is dressed the same as Zeto, and he transforms into a bird. Let's get this over with. Dohati has a unique mechanic that could have been something, but it's ultimately the same. He only has 2 actions, normal attacks and his choice AoE called Chaos Breath. It can inflict Toxic, which is a stronger form of Venom, but it's cured by anything that deals with Venom, so it's no big deal. The difference here is that he'll only use Chaos Breath when he's fully inflated. He'll inflate as he takes damage, so in a sense, we can anticipate the Chaos Breath coming. And that's all there is here. I think this is the worst boss fight in the game, but not because it's difficult. It It is just bad. The only cool thing about this bird is its grunts whenever it's hit. Other than that, it's lame as hell. I've leveled Gala's Camaro magic as I made way through the dungeon, and by the time I got to this boss, Camaro was at level 6 and dealing up to 3000 damage per cast. Before I even knew it, I've already won. So that's that. We destroyed the mist generator, but for some reason, a raw Seru emerges from it, but it dies shortly after. And we'll find out later that mist generators are actually powered by raw Seru. That makes our own raw Seru sad. Aw, you poor things, get over it. At least now Sabuku's Islands is free from the mist, which means we can now ride the flying trains from Octam. They have a mechanism that utilizes a Seru to fly across the ocean. So off to Caristo Kingdom we go. Oh wait, now that I think about it, why do they call it flying trains? As far as I can tell, this is the only kind of train in Legaia. So really, it should just be called a train. That'd be like saying flying airplane instead of just airplane. Just saying. The Seru operator detaches from our car halfway though, because Caristo still got deep mist. And using momentum, we come crashing into the station. We wake up with Kara on our side, and almost immediately, we spot the source of the mist, a floating castle. Welcome to Caristo, the last region of the game. From here, I decide to bump up the emulator's overclocking for some sweet FPS. Game's looking much smoother, but also much crashier. Our first stop in Caristo is Soul Tower, a tall structure that houses an entire town inside. It seems to be mist-ridden, but actually the upper floors are fine. Apparently the mist isn't light enough to reach the higher floors. It can only reach the 3rd floor of Soul Tower. As we make our way up, we fight and absorb the Light Seru Spoon, which is, you guessed it, a healing Seru. Orb is not quite out of vogue yet, but Spoon will be more useful a bit later when our HP pool gets much higher. We encounter special treasure chests called Sage's Treasure Chest, and at the bottom levels, a mechanism prevents us from going deeper. A message inside the machine room says we should satisfy all 8 sages, and if we examine the open sage chests, they seem to be waiting for something. We'll need to give them something special to solve the puzzle. We also encounter an armored warrior wandering the mist. He hates Seru and prefers they not exist anymore, and so he uses his master swordsmanship to slay them. More on him later. Next up, the upper floors of Soul Tower is something else. If you played Final Fantasy VII, then this is pretty much the golden saucer of Legaia. It has a lot of stuff we can enjoy. Let's check them out one at a time. First off is the bar, where we meet Kara's deadbeat lover, Grantes. Noah doesn't like his lazy ass, so she delivers a flying kick to hopefully set him straight. Well, that was something. Next up, oh boy, the Muscle Dome. 3 things here. First up is the slot machines. They're no different to Vidna. Second is the arcade machines for the minigame Baka Fighter. You have 3 attacks, you and your opponent will attack at the same time, and the result is based on rock, paper, scissors. Enemies have attack patterns though, so you can easily win if you recognize them. The game uses palette swapped monsters and characters here, and it's kinda neat seeing our heroes sport a different style. But it's only fun for a game or two, not much more to say about it. And lastly is the highlight of the place. The Muscle Dome Coliseum is a gauntlet of solo fights. Noah and Gala don't want to join though, so we can only join in with Van. It's an interesting idea to challenge the game's past enemies with a solo character to see exactly how strong they've become. There are 3 courses, beginner, expert, and master. Beginner is still pretty tough at my level right now, although the only real challenge is the final round against Xain. You know, the boss back at the lava cave. So do they just keep Xains at the back and bring them out whenever they need them? Well, if you think this idea is absurd, it gets worse in harder courses. Master level is something else though. All your armor pieces are removed, making you weaker and more fragile. It's impossible to finish without leveling up first because the challenge doesn't just end with Xain. All of these activities reward us with tokens, but the slot machines are still the best. The value per token also improves from here. Soru Bread converts 100 tokens to 3000 gold. That's nearly double of what we had with Phoenix's. And I think you're actually meant to stay a while at the Muscle Dome for the story. That's because the Soru Bread are the solution to the Sage's chest. We'll need to feed 1 bread per chest to open the gate to the lower floors. There's 8 in total, so you need 800 coins at least. Though you could also just buy Soru Bread for 6,000 gold apiece. You're breaking so much bank if you do this, it is so impractical. And the Soru Bread also has use outside of the puzzle. It's a full HP heal in combat, so keeping some in our inventory isn't a bad idea. I can imagine this part of the game being a major pain for first-time players. The Sage puzzle grinds the game to a halt. You'll most likely gravitate towards the Muscle Dome beginner course to get those 800 coins. And the simplest solution to winning is grinding up levels, which might take a few hours. It's frustrating.
This is honestly the worst part in this game. This stinks that I have to get the Soru bread. Very glad I looked up a guide for this part because I would have not known to, hey, you need to get 8 Soru bread, pieces of shit. Very happy we actually get to move on. That was a nightmare. That was absolutely hands down the worst part of the game.
We can also get the gold card from the Muscle Dome. It gives us access to the disco in Soul Tower. It's Noah's time to shine here with a dancing minigame. Not a rhythm game though, the button presses aren't relevant to the music. Trust me, it sucks. But it is worth beating the Disco Queen at least. We'll be rewarded with the Speed Chain, an accessory that always makes its wearer act first in combat. And I would say this is the most useful accessory in the game. It enables strategies like no other can. It's especially potent for healers. You see, the game doesn't change healing targets when they are KO'd. So what can happen is you order Gala to heal Van, but Van gets KO'd first. But Gala will still try to heal Van to no avail. This makes the game a tad bit harder. Luckily, using healing items has increased priority during fights, meaning any character that uses a healing item will often take their turn much earlier than normal. Now it's Gala's time to shine with the Comedy Club. And man, they got lazy with this one. Gala was made a guest for a stand-up comedy act. You wanna watch it? Here you go. Oh man, are you serious? Imagine if I went like, dude, let me show you how to beat Songi. And you win. It is crap. They wasted Gala's moment with this one. Last thing I want to mention in Soul Tower is this shop. It has kids selling some choice stuff. First is the Life Grail, an accessory that restores 200 HP per turn. Pretty useful, but make sure you haggle the price down to 40,000 gold. And this other kid sells Magic Fruit. Hell yeah, this thing is 4 times the effect of Magic Leaves, but at 8,500 gold apiece. It nearly broke my bank. Kid is ruthless with her prizes. But now let's move on, we gotta finish this game. At the top of the tower is a Biron Temple, where we get a Genesis 3 seedling. We're to bring it to the tower's basement and revive it there. Don't know why we can't just do that outside, but okay. But then Gaza arrives and he wants to keep killing Seru, so he ain't keen on the idea of us purging the mist from Soul Tower. He's here to kill us. Boss fight time, and damn, I gotta get some stuff out of my chest. Who put a Dark Souls character in my 90s JRPG? Gaza is so sick, bruh. His armor is badass. The idea of the old wandering swordsman was enough, but this fight took it even further. Gaza's got 2 blades attached to his forearm, and they can combine to form his signature Astral Sword. It's a shame it's difficult to see the sword itself because of how quickly he swings it. Hell, even his speech is Dark Souls. I, Gaza, will not let thine evil plot succeed. This I have vowed on my honor, and on the mighty Astral Sword. Dude, it's incredible. Which is why I hate it that this potential is wasted. We beat him to an inch of his life and Songi shows up to rescue him. Then we move on to solve the puzzle with the sage's chest. We open the gate to the lower floors and a hologram of a scientist talks to us. More on him later. So we arrive at the lowest level of Soul Tower and Songi shows up to return Gaza to us. Only this time, he's brought a Sim Seru to make him even stronger. And again, out of character, this should not have happened at all. Round 2 against Gaza is only tough because, well, like other recent boss fight, he just deals a truckload of damage. And that's it. At least he still looks kinda cool, but his pose isn't great. Noah's level 22 now, and she's got the maximum length our arts gauge can go, 9 blocks, which means she can now unleash her miracle arts. This is a very specific string of 9 attacks, so I don't know how you're even able to figure this out in normal play. But once you have the miracle arts, its power is beyond any other arts combination you can try. So much for making our own combos. Anyway, here it is, Noah's miracle art. Speaking of miracle arts, there's also these super arts. By doing a specific arts combo, we can unleash one of these. For example, do somersault into cyclone into another somersault with Van, and the last attack will turn into a triple somersault. They're a bit more powerful and flashier than the normal variation. I've already shown you a few of them through this video, but you might notice that they're not shown in the command list. That's because they're not saved there when you use them. You have to memorize the arts you use, and all that does is we'll end up using them less. I think it's a shame, but back to the fight. We just poke some holes into Gaza with some Kemaru level 8 summons, and he's done. Our battles have taken their toll on his old body, and he offers his life to help the Genesis seedling thrive. It sprouts into a tree that's just as big as the previous ones we've seen, and Soul Tower is now completely free from the mist. Some extra shops open up on the lower floors too, but that's it for Gaza. I think it's a real waste. He could have gotten a bit more time to shine. We do inherit his Astral Sword though. Van can equip it in combat. Sweet rot Seru, this thing sucks Seru ass! We are never using this again. Up next is the longest segment in the game without combat, so I'm just gonna skim through it. We get a password from the Emperor of Soul Tower, which is this guy, and we head off to the northeast. We stop by the frozen village of Buma to find 3 Genesis trees, but they're all frozen solid, so we can't revive them. Just to the west of Buma is the Usha Research Laboratory. Usha's the old guy that was in the hologram a bit earlier on. We use the password from the Emperor here to prove we're not Seru. We gain access to the elevator and we're in the lab. They're using this high structure to evade the mist and to research the floating. That little kid is an overpricing gouger. This merchant in the lab sells magic fruit for just 5,000. Oh, I'm livid, but we gotta move on. Okay, we meet Dr. Usha himself, who wants to make a bomb to open up the next dungeon. And to make the bomb, we first have to dream dreams in this place called Urumais. Lots of exposition here that's not relevant, except for how Noah got separated from her parents and ended up in a cave. After dreaming, this ghost shows up. He's called Teague, the god of all gods in Legaia. He gives us a fire droplet, which is what we need. But then Juggernaut arrives to destroy Urumais, so we can't dream dreams again to get more droplets, I guess. So we just take the 1 droplet back to Dr. Usha to create the time-space bombs. That was a lot of plot, but now we're done. We can use these time-space bombs to destroy the iceberg blocking the entrance to the next dungeon, Nivora Ravine, and this one is a wholly unique experience. The team's target is the Ice Seru Koru. We need 3 bombs to vaporize its ass, and the heroes will set it off at different points surrounding the Seru's pit. This leads us to control each party member individually on a solo path towards their spot. Random encounters are still on, so they'll briefly be fighting solo too. Once we're in position, we're interrupted by none other than the Delilas siblings. So they do their little poses and Gala cringes at their flashiness, as well as Noah joining in the fun. This is so precious. With everyone still separated, the Delilas moves in to eliminate us in one-on-one combat. So it's time for a gauntlet of 3 one-on-one fights. There's no saving in between, but we can set up our party right before the fight. The one-on-one aspect alone is unique, but the fact that we have to do all of them in one go makes this fight even more special. And each Delilas has their own cinematic signature move. Chad goes against Gala and has this. Well, I can't disagree, it is gorgeous. Next up is Noah versus Lou. And could someone stop Noah from being so charming? She's copying Lou's poses. Anyways, Lou has Plasma Strike, which is also neat. Lastly, Van goes up against Guy, who has the special Blazing Slash. They're also pretty awesome fights, but also quite easy once you discover the pattern. Their signature attacks hurt like hell, but they'll only use it every 3 turns. Spiriting up will greatly reduce the damage you take, so each fight is mostly just healing up, attacking, spirit, then just repeat. Delilas is actually the most difficult combatant because of his heavy-hitting normals. I gave Gala the Life Grail to help regenerate his health, and it's working like a charm. Also, Kemaru's maxed out on Gala at level 9. It does a whopping 3.7k per cast. 4 of these and he's done. The other 2 fights are more manageable. Lou's damage output is balanced around Noah's low health, and Gi versus Van is just meh. Once we achieve victory, all of them fall into Koru's pit. So now we're clear to set off the time-space bombs. Noah goes flying from the blast because its specs aren't quite what we're expecting. However, the blast from the 3 time-space bombs was still not enough. Koru still stands. The Delilas used the last of their power to fuse with Koru. Now they're planning to unleash its stored heat to set off a big explosion. So we still have to finish off Koru, and it's a time battle. We only have 5 turns until Koru blows. And if we don't make it, it's a dead-end crisis. An instant game over. Galos Kamaru can tear Koru a new butthole. We only have to chew through 20,000 HP. But I'll beat him the same way I did as a kid. I have plenty of points stored in my point card, more than 25,000 now in fact. But the damage cap in the game per hit is 9,999, so I used the point card twice. That drops it to 2 HP left. One more cherry tap and Koru's done. And the heat from Koru's body is safely released, melting the ice around Buma. We revive the trees and Kara shows up to thank us for freeing her village from the mist. We get her and Gruntus back together by playing Cupid for a bit, and then Kara gives us a Soren flute plus her Raseru egg. All of this is thanks to our resident expert of love, Gala. You're gonna have to excuse him though, he's a bit shy about it. Gala's been the voice of maturity in our group, and I think it really shines during this part of the story. He can appear a bit mean, but deep down, he's a big ol' bear. Van doesn't talk, so Gala's been babysitting Noah pretty much by himself all this time. So what's next? Well, the lake right beside Buma is hard to miss, so let's do this. It's time to go fishing. And I gotta say, the fishing minigame in Legaia is actually not so bad. It doesn't take long to hook a fish, and reeling it in is actually an engaging minigame. Once you get a bite, 2 gauges will appear. Life reflects the fish's stamina. It'll drop as it tries to fight your reel in, and as it does, your line's tension will also increase. When your tension reaches maximum, your line will break and the fish will escape. So you'll have to relax your reeling once in a while. Better quality rods will make reeling in fish easier. And it just so happens that the best fishing rod in the game can be found in Dr. Usha's lab. You can just go over there and pick it up. You can catch rarer fish by using heavier lures. Rarer fish are much tougher to reel in. They have better stamina regen and also fills the tension gauge much quicker. But it's all about a battle of attrition. As this goes on, the fish's max life will steadily drop, and eventually you'll be able to reel them in reliably. Catching fish will get us points and we can exchange them for stuff. It's quite grindy though, but I want to be thorough, so I had to do this. We have several powerful accessories we can get with our points, but there's also a hidden reward. For 20,000 points, we can get the water egg. I had to optimize my fishing technique to speed up the grind, and here's what I did. Casting your line at around 60% power is enough to reliably get a bite. Fish will also only bite when you're reeling in, so there's no need to let your bait float in one spot. The in-game instructions also say you can use either X or square to reel in at different speeds, but you can actually press both for maximum reeling power. It took me 1.5 hours of fishing to get these points, but there it is. We'll discuss what the eggs do right after we get the Earth Egg, which we can get from the Muscle Dome. It's another hidden reward that we can get by exchanging 100,000 tokens. Damn, took me over another hour playing slots to get what I need. But once I did, the lady offers me the egg. But now, what do we do with these? Well, they're all Raseru eggs, including the freebie we got from Kara. The description says they look like jewels, so it makes sense to bring them to Zalan the Jeweler in Jeremy. They'll convert the eggs into talismans, which, when equipped, will give us the most powerful summons in the game. All the endgame summons are the same, it's all just damage and damage and damage. The water egg contains the Raseru Mule, a giant isopod with fins and a human head. The Earth Egg has Palma, a space giant that splits into a meteor cluster. And the Light Seru horn is... what the hell is this? Looks like a hood ornament. Actually, this is the best healing magic in the game, that's what it is. Now, all of these magic attacks are alright, but Kemaru is still better for now. The Raseru summon costs 200 MP, so we can't cast them as often, even with lots of magic fruit. The Soren flute we got from Grantis opens the gate to the northern mountain. It's called Mount Dini, and it has one purpose for the story. Its summit is free from the mist, and playing the Soren flute there will summon the Soren, a remote human tribe that use flying Seru to grant themselves flight. And hopefully, with their help, we can access the floating castle and destroy the mist generator of Callisto Kingdom. But first though, we get a chance to royally piss off Gala. We can have Van repeatedly refuse to cooperate with the Soren, and this sets Gala off quite hard. He gets so upset that he changes the nature of our decision. We still have a choice, sure, but both options are yes. Game's had enough of our crap, it seems. Anyways, the Soren fly us off to their Soren camp to the west, and the Elder gives us the green light on the operation. But we're not going to the floating castle yet. We've got unfinished business. We return to the summit of Mount Dini and get into a random encounter, where the game's super boss Lapis shows up. Now, what can I say about Lapis? Well, check out its damage output. There is no way we can survive those pecks and jabs. Yet, this boss is beatable at this point because normal attacks are all he has to do damage. Lapis will also always open the fight with an ambush, just to unleash Lapis Wave, a skill that drops everyone's max MP to 0, meaning we cannot use magic. So, how do we beat this bird? Well, there are several ways to do so. The first one is to just wait until later when we're higher level. Not gonna do that, obviously. Second is with the speed chain and tons of Phoenix revives. Since Lapis can only knock out one character at a time, this strategy works like a charm. The speed chain character will run support, reviving anyone that gets KO'd, and the other two characters will attack. When the speed chain user is KO'd, the other two will try to revive him. Only one will succeed in reviving though, since Lapis will take their turn first. With this method, the team will do damage to Lapis whenever the speed chain user gets hit. Do this enough times and Lapis will just die eventually. The third method is stacking elixirs. Elixirs are one-time items that temporarily buff a character's stats in battle, and they can stack indefinitely. By the way, the fandom wiki's incorrect. The elixir bonuses don't go away when a character faints, only once the battle ends. Otherwise, this method would be much less practical. And this method is actually the most fun to play with. You can buff your defense so much that you can survive Lapis's attacks, or buff your speed to take first turns in battle and enable blocking. Yeah, I always thought Lapis's attacks can't be blocked, but it turns out block chance is based on speed. That I did not know before trying this strategy. Oh, and if you want to tank hits from Lapis, the light resistance accessories will help. But I want to take out Lapis in my own way, so let's look at the last method, which is detailed in the Legend of Legaia fandom wiki. The first step is to run away. The wiki says to use a spikefish flute, an item we get from fishing. It guarantees escape, although I don't think it's a glitch that it works on this fight. We can just run away like normal actually. Upon the second encounter, Lapis won't cast Lapis Wave because no character has any MP remaining, and thus the party can use MP recovery items. From there, you summon the Seru Zeto to insta-kill Lapis. According to legendoflegaia.net though, using this glitch is quote-unquote no fun and defeats the purpose of the challenge. Well fine then, I'll come up with my own method. You see, using the Zeto method has a caveat. You will beat Lapis, but by the end of the fight, there's a high chance that one party member will be knocked out, and they'll miss out on the XP reward. So that's what I'll do. Insta-kill Lapis with everyone standing. Plus, I won't run away from the fight. To drop our MP to 0, we can just manually drain it in random battles. With some math, this is easily done. Then we need 2 accessories, the speed chain and a magic grail. Lost grails can also help for insurance. They're a one-time instant revive when KO'd. Equip them to a single character and they'll regenerate 20 MP per turn, enabling them to cast Naito. Lapis will still use its preemptive strike to attack the party, but we only need to cast her to survive. When we cast Naito, we have a chance of getting an insta-kill, but it can also just confuse, which is fine. Afterwards, we revive any KO'd party members, top up on MP with magic fruits for everyone, and spam Naito and Aluru to hopefully score an insta-kill. This won't go smoothly every time because for some reason Lapis can still use Lapis Wave when confused. Maybe it's because it's trying to drain its own MP? I don't know. What claimed victory for me though is an Aluru insta-kill. Now I'm sure someone else has done this, but it's probably less well known. But there you go, Lapis is done. And everyone's still standing too, so they all received their share of XP. Our reward is the Evil Medallion, the most unique accessory in the game. We'll try it out on the next boss. So let's head off to the floating castle. The Soren carry us to the entrance, and inside we have the most powerful single target Seru magic in the game, Bara. Not much more powerful than Kumaro, it does around 700 more damage overall, but even so, that's still bonus damage. The guardian of this generator is Zora, a harpy lady straight from Yu-Gi-Oh! Same as other bosses thus far, she's all about damage, but she's also got a surprise. Glare can inflict this stone status effect to a character. Stone is effectively an insta-kill that has to be cured, and that's about it. Her special attack is Darkness Typhoon. I think this is one of the most incredible attacks to listen to. Zora's voice actor goes in with the delivery, and the build-up and payoff is just stellar. Take a listen.
これで終わりにしてあげる。
Am I the only one that thinks this is so good? Ah well, let's unleash the evil medallion into Zora's butt. Wearing this will give the character the unique Rage status. We lose control of them, but in turn, they'll focus on attacking. But there's no normals in their attacks, just arts. And the amount they use is random. The minimum is 0, which means nothing happens. But the maximum is 15 arts in a row. It is a sight to behold. So we defeat Zora and head off to the generator, but we discovered that Songi's already done our work for us. Apparently, he wants to use the floating castle to kill the Seru heroes. Without the generator, the floating castle goes into freefall. A 6-minute escape timer starts up and we have to escape the dungeon. Failing is just game over, of course. So we run outside and go into freefall, but the Soren catches us just in time. We return to the Soren camp where the Elder informs us of our next destination. Finally, we're going to Noah's birthplace of Conkram, as well as the final mist generator. We'll have to fly over there since the path is blocked by a mountain. Looking at Conkram from up above, it's clear that it sits within a huge seashell. How charming, or so you thought. You enter the town, and the nightmare truly begins. The whole town pulsates up and down, there's flesh and veins cropping up from everywhere, and there's people. The townsfolk are still alive. Actually, they're being kept alive in an eternal state of pain and darkness. This is where we realize the giant seashell is a Sim Seru, and it's become so warped by the mist that it's fused with the entire town. Yeah, is this Silent Hill? Yes, you can have your horror back now. And it gets worse. We find Noah's mother, the Queen of Conkram, in a similar state. She can even see her own daughter's face. Man, is that ever bleak. Queen Minea here tells us how to open the way to the final mist generator. Cause at its current state, there seems to be no entrance. So Minea tells us to get the Seru flame from Noah's father, the king, who is similarly debilitated. And then we take the Seru flame in this room of mirrors and it'll allow us to time travel to Conkram of the past. Over there we meet some characters that we already know of, like the mist generator guardians, the Delilases, and of course, Noah's parents. We're transported to the exact time where the mist is first unleashed onto Legaia. It's meant to be used as a weapon of war that gives Seru wearers incredible strength. But a freak malfunction caused its unveiling to go horribly wrong. The mist breaks out and claims its first victims. So our heroes set off to the origin of the mist itself, Rogue's Tower. And this is where the game just throws all conventional logic and sense behind. It's all fantasy fluff from here on. Rogue is a type of Seru that rebels against the creator Tieg, and the mist is its weapon. It can be said that the Serus we found inside the mist generators that we've destroyed were either rogues or forced to be rogues. So the whole game is sort of like a war between good Seru and bad Seru. Rogue's Tower is a dungeon that is, again, straight out of Silent Hill. It's a brick maze that for some reason turns to flesh and back. Ugh. Mechanically, this dungeon is a teleporter puzzle. We just need to find the right sequence to make progress. But here's something, the changing skin actually plays a part in the second area. If we use a teleporter while the area is fleshy, we'll be teleported back to the start. This confused me quite a bit as a kid, but ever since I figured it out, I never forgot it. We also fight two familiar bosses here, higher level Carubans and Berserkers, although none of them are a significant challenge. Still kinda cool though that we get to fight them again. And the actual boss of this dungeon is Rogue, which is this pile of crystals. In this fight, oof, it sucks. Ain't nothing cool about it, it's just bad. Rogue will just randomly cycle between the three elements fire, wind, or thunder, then use an AoE. At my level, it can one-hit KO some characters, but we have a full turn to heal up afterwards. It's pathetic. We knock down the crystals and Rogue's Tower collapses. The source of the mist is no more, and so past Conkram is saved. For our efforts, the king gives us the thing that we came here for, a Nemesis gem. And we also meet this guy, and apparently he's the main villain of the story, who also happens to be Noah's brother, the Prince of Conkram Court. More on him soon. And hey, we spot the Seru that would later consume Conkram. If only they knew the eldritch monstrosity that thing will become. But now we return to present Conkram through the mirror, and we're off to the final mist generator, the Absolute Fortress. Noah just chucks the Nemesis gem at the entrance, and it opens up a clean path. Again, the game stops making logical sense from here, so just go with it. And right at the entrance of the dungeon is a pool of condensed mist, and it's got something submerged in it. Oh, it's Juggernaut! Oh man, we're gonna see him in battle soon. Midway through this dungeon, we fight a boss. This guy, whose name is Jet. I think we can consider him the genius behind the Mist and Seru. Maybe. I don't know, we saw him first in Conkram in the past, and all we know about him is that he made the first mist mechanism. But now for the boss fight itself, which is, well, you know how it is by now. Normal attacks and an AoE skill. The only unique mechanic here is the clone skill. He'll produce a copy of himself that serves as a decoy. It's got no HP or power to speak of though, so if you identify the correct Jet, you can leave it alone. I would have liked something better from the fight against the ninja boss, but that's it. Also, I noticed Jet's damage output was lowering as the fight went on, and this is true with other boss fights as well, including the super boss Lapis. It's weird, that one's counter to the idea that bosses get tougher as they take more damage. Anyway, Jet's down and we go deeper into the dungeon, and I noticed something. I have not run into a single enemy here. I'm using an emulator to play this game, and this is apparently a side effect that can happen sometimes. I couldn't figure out how to fix it too, so I guess we just go straight to the generator, where we meet the big bad of the game, Prince Court. He gets into a sibling squabble with Noah, and I'm guessing just to show how twisted Court has become. I'd be able to appreciate this more if the writing was well done, but it's not. The endgame villains really could have used more build-up. At least this boss fight is different. Court will start the fight by casting Mystic Shield. It'll stay up for the first 25,000 of Court's hit points, and while it's up, arts and magic do less damage. Court also doesn't do normal attacks. His single target attack, Guilty Cross, is considered a skill and thus unblockable. Mystic Circle is his AoE, and yep, it's all just damage. But now here's something that I don't think anybody knows of. See, Legend of Legaia's combat takes place in an enclosed area, and some attacks actually takes enemy positioning into consideration. The Teeter summon is the earliest sample. It'll only hit enemies that get caught up in its looping laser. As the game progresses though, the game discards the idea, and by Callisto Kingdom, all AoE magic we get will just hit all enemies regardless of position. One of the summons with an area mechanic is that Earth Seru from before, Mushura. It drives around the arena and will run over multiple targets at random. But against Court's Mystic Shield, it has a unique interaction. Court doesn't have a hit animation during this state, so when Mushura runs past Court, it'll register a lot of hits. Mushura ends up doing tons of damage because of this. I briefly looked around the internet for anyone else that might know of this interaction, but I couldn't find any. So I'm assuming I'm the only one that knows about it until now. You're welcome, by the way. Once Court's shield is down, he'll be much more exposed to regular magic, so back to spamming Bara. But this is also where he brings out something big. He casts evil Seru magic, something stomps us from up above, and claws us from underneath. So what the hell is this thing? Well, it's Juggernaut! Yeah, he has control over this kaiju. Even with full HP, it destroyed me, so I had to respec and put in HP boost accessories. But, speaking of Juggernaut, did you know that there's a way that we can summon Juggernaut? The one we'll summon is the one from Raytube, I think, because that's where we get it from. But Lord Saryu will only give access to it when everyone reaches level 99. And since I'm only at level 30, I start the grind. I fight endless battles and gain so much XP just to get a chance to— I'm kidding. There ain't no way I'm gonna grind that much, it would take hours. Instead, we're gonna use a glitch. The accessory that enables summoning Juggernaut is just past these two guards, and there's a way that we can clip through them. There are multiple videos on YouTube detailing how you do this, but the video from Old Angry Gasm is the correct method. What you do is position yourself to the side of either guard and try to walk directly up. What you're looking for here is the guard speaking to you as you approach the door. And from here, it's just a matter of moving up and down. Eventually, the door will open and let you in. And now you're back in the hidden chamber of Raytube Castle. At the end of the path is the evil talisman. Equip it and we can use evil Seru magic. But could we have gotten the evil talisman earlier? Well, of course, but if we try too early, like before our fight with Von Saryu, we'll be met by those shady scientists, and they'll just comment on our quote-unquote tour. That's pretty much right, I'd say. Anyway, with this, I go back to fighting court and summon Juggernaut on his ass. Oh yeah, how'd you like getting spit on by a giant Seru, huh? Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. No, it's not cool with our victory though. The victory required for this fight is her about to break into tears. Court then falls into the pool of mist with Juggernaut. Yeah, he's totally dead after that. We wreck the last generator and the fortress collapses. Another escape sequence starts, but we only have 30 seconds to escape, and our escape route is blocked too. There ain't no way, so this has to be scripted, and it is. Kara shows up to lead to an escape route. We get out via the pipes of the structure, so that's that. What an adventure! The land is free from the mist, and it's for real this time. No more mist generators anywhere. We return to Conkram to see it freed from the... What? The Seru shell, it's closed. The Sim Seru without the mist to keep it alive has died, swallowing Conkram and Noah's parents. She just wanted to reunite with her family. But even after a long journey, she's lost it all. This ending is bittersweet. Our heroes return to Rim Elm with heavy hearts. We pass time by challenging Master Tetsu to a sparring match. At his full strength, he is no joke. Just one combo is enough to take out Van. I am way under-leveled for this. Unfortunately, as a monk, he cannot grasp the power of shopping points. Aha, our victory is assured. But back to the little girl. What are we to do now? Noah's sweet veneer has been shattered. We can only hope that she eventually Hey, Songi, almost forgot about you. Yeah, the game's not over. Songi is here to carry the torch of Conkram's villains. He brings over Juggernaut to eat the entire village of Rim Elm, fusing with the land and becoming the final dungeon. Man, this is getting bleaker and bleaker, but we are near the end. Songi blocks the entrance to the final dungeon and retreats to the Serukai, the native world of the Seru and Tieg. He's just about ready to become a god and destroy the world. We give chase to him by returning to Urumais, pray to the god Tieg, and he gladly opens a portal to the penultimate dungeon. It's also called the Valley of Nowaru for some reason. I don't know why, it's just lore. It's got a whole different aesthetic versus the rest of the game. It's like we're walking on hexagon clouds, and the music's quite nice too. It's quite soothing, I like it. But it's a really short dungeon, just 2 areas overall. We find Songi at the end of the path. He's sapping what is left of the great Genesis tree. Boy, must have gotten a lot out of that because he just straight up declares himself a god. So let's not delay this any longer, folks. Songi challenges us to one final showdown. He transforms into his final form. And what in the darkness typhoon is that? Actually, this form of Songi is kinda similar to a boss from another game that I recently played. It's Melancholia Zorba from Metaphor Refantasio. Both of their bodies have been warped into inhumanity, with most of the grotesque visible in their right arm. But Songi's form is far worse off. So you know our hero's Seru steadily grows as they gain levels, but Songi is so far ahead that the entire right side of his body has been warped, and even his left side is turning pale and ghastly. It is sick, but it's also sickening. The boss fight itself though is the same as it's been. Songi's all about damage, but this time it's his normal attacks that are deadly. It can do upwards of 3,000 damage. I actually ended up losing once since it one-hit KO'd everyone. On the other hand though, his specials are pathetic. Chaos Flare does around 1,500 damage to a single target. Even Noah can survive that. So my strategy was just focusing on surviving, only attacking whenever Songi uses Chaos Flare. The Seru Horn summon came in useful here, since it both heals and revives. It was the key to my victory. Juggernaut's also doing busted damage to him, and my Bara summon's not far behind. And a bit into the fight, he enters Desperation phase. It's quite unique too. Songi's AoE skill is Genocidal Cannon. He'll only use it at, I think, 50% HP and below. And you might not notice, but it's actually telegraphed. And the tel is Songi's normal attack. When his attack string cuts short to just one attack, the cannon's coming on the next turn. Once you figure that out, finishing off Songi's a breeze, and the second half of the fight is actually easier. Once beaten, Songi's Seru separates from his arm, and he is in for a bad time. Regular humans cannot exist in the world of Seru Kai, so he writhes in pain as his body starts getting destroyed. He declares all Seru useless and fades into triangle-shaped dust particles. And that's the end of him. I gotta say though, Songi is deliciously evil. Damn good villain, a bad guy through and through. And he has a bit of honor, which actually made him more intriguing. 10 out of 10, would love to hate again. Now for some mushy story stuff. We are too late to save the great Genesis tree, it seems. It's gonna die and we can't do anything about it except pray to whoever's listening. And that whoever is Hari. Yeah, I almost forgot about you. He helps out by giving the great tree a bit more strength to survive a little longer. But its death is inevitable. Now all that's left for us to do is to destroy Juggernaut and save Rim Elm. We're teleported back to the Genesis tree of Mount Rikuroa. I guess the tree in Rim Elm is just gone. It is convenient though because we can unlock Noah's ultimate summon. By this point, if you have all the normal arts learned on the character, they can return to the Genesis tree of their Seru's origin. Examining the tree there will give the final level up for the Serus. In this case, Terra's maximum level is 8. On to East Voss Forest for Gala's Seru. Here, Ozma goes up to level 7. However, incorrect sirs. Ozma came from West Voss. For Vando, we can't go to Rim Elm's tree since it's just gone. So instead, we return to Soul Towers. So why this one? Good question, I have no idea. Anyway, this also unlocks their Seru summon, and it's hands down the strongest magic each character can use. Besides the Kaiju summon, of course. Gala summoning Ozma is especially potent. I think it can actually match the strength of the Juggernaut summon. Each animation takes a long ass time to finish though, so have fun leveling these up to maximum. Now, the only Seru element we're missing is Dark, and it just so happens that a treasure chest pops up in East Voss Forest. Inside it, we find the Dark Stone, which we bring to Zalan to obtain the Dark Talisman. Finally, we can summon Songi's Seru Zeto. It has a sick summon animation, plus it's an insta-kill to all enemies. Well, except for bosses, but you likely wouldn't know that because there's only one boss left. And as we previously mentioned, it works on Lapis too, except I already killed it, so there's that. So there's just the final dungeon left, but first, I challenged the Muscle Dome Expert course. I died on the 3rd round. I think I'm gonna need a bit more levels. Okay, so the final dungeon. Let's step back for a bit. Or actually, let's step back several feet because my Tieg, this place is horrific. We've been told of how strong Juggernaut is all throughout the game. We cannot fight him head to head. All we ever did was run. But now that he's fused with Rim Elm, a weakness is exposed. The final dungeon is called Bio Castle. Bio, as in Juggernaut's bioorganism. We're going inside Juggernaut to destroy him from within. And the game doesn't hold back in portraying the innards of a living monster. We'll be walking on wriggling organs and swimming through a river of blood. I'm surprised our heroes never once mentioned what it must smell like inside. You know what, maybe that's a good thing. Yet even inside Juggernaut, we'll still find treasure chests. Immersion broken, now I'm okay. All the chests in this dungeon contain a piece of the hero's final armor set. And once completed, Van, Noah, and Gala will look so far away from how they originally looked. It is actually amazing. I'm glad they took the time to add this in the game. The enemies in Bio Castle are all the Serus we've encountered in the game, and they're at their maximum level of 3. And they're all here, so if you missed out on any of them, you can get them here. Only for completionist's sake though, because most of them are obsolete by this point. The villagers of Rim Elm are also inside Juggernaut, and they're in a similar state to the people of Conkram. So this means if we destroy Juggernaut, these people will... Oh no, not again. But hey, we find a hidden item. It's right here of all places. I wouldn't know to check here if not for a guide. It's one of the best accessories in the game. The metal goblet gives a character infinite AP, meaning miracle arts every turn. Great! But my character's levels are too low to make good use of it. So yeah, into my bag you go. Once we're deep enough into Juggernaut's innards, we're swept away by a stream of blood. And this is how we end up at Juggernaut's heart. And we spot a familiar face. Well, what do you know? Court's alive, fused with Juggernaut's heart. Ooh, I did not see that one coming. And yeah, this is the final boss, but we're not fighting Court in the shape of a heart. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Instead, we fight this monstrosity. It is quite something, and by that I mean it's all over the place. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm guessing that's Squirt's face. It's also a disappointing as hell final boss. Its normals are weaker than Songi's, and to use its most powerful AoE, Final Crisis, it has to charge up, so we can mitigate our damage by spiriting up. And even worse, this is another boss whose damage output weakens as its HP drops. Seriously, it can't even KO Noah. So I just kick its ass. The final boss is so big that it completely clips into my Bara summon. And yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Seriously, talk about finishing on a low note. Court the evil Seru was dead before I even knew it. And it gets worse. The great Genesis tree is just about dead, so the Seru's time is up. So they use the last of their strength to perform a miracle. Juggernaut is destroyed, but the people of Rim Elm are safely released from their bindings. So the tragedy of another Conkram has been avoided. Fast forward to a few months later, the village of Rim Elm is being rebuilt, and Van prepares to go on a new adventure. Gala resumes his life as a Baron monk, and Noah is holding a baby. It's actually her brother Court. He's given a new chance at life by the will of the Seru. All this is fine and all, but what sucks about the ending is the Great Genesis Tree's death. In-game lore states that all Seru cannot live without the Great Tree, and so their time in the human world is numbered. They soon go extinct, and the PS2 sequel confirms it. There are no Serus in that game at all. You wanna know why Legaia 2 is so different from this game? I blame this. They could have created a whole new story with the Seru if they just kept them in. I'd go so far as to say the Seru is what makes Legend of Legaia. Well, that plus the art system. But magic summons in the second game suck because of this. It is just not the same. Oh, by the way, check out the results screen. It shows some neat statistics for your run, including percentage of treasure located, max damage per character, etc. You can see the drastic effect of relying on Gala's magic. He dealt the least damage with his normals and arts, but ran past everyone with the most enemies defeated. I think that's kinda funny. But before I end the video, let's take on the last challenge that awaits us at Soul Tower's Muscle Dome. I finished the game at level 33, and while that's not the lowest you can finish the game, it's still below average. We're gonna have to grind for a bit. The only character I'll level is Van though, since he's the only one that can challenge the Muscle Dome. The best source of XP is this, 3 Gilliam level 3s at the final area of Bio Castle. We boost this XP gain in 3 ways. First is with the accessory Crimson Book. It doubles the XP gained by a character that equips it. Second, we'll finish fights with Noah and Gala KO'd. That way, the XP we gain won't be split. Third is our killing method. We'll just summon Meta to smack the Gilliam with a giant sword for a one-hit wipe. I get over 30,000 XP on Van per fight this way. For comparison, Songi would have given 90,000 XP with the same setup. Took around 2 hours to get Van from level 32 to level 50. I stop here because stat gains stagnate from here. It's not only going to be slower to level up, but it'll also make less difference overall. And there's only one way I beat the Master Course as a kid. As a reminder, Van will be stripped of his armor for the entire run. And he also can't use magic. Healing and staying alive is the most pressing issue. Van does get patched up a little in between fights, but that won't be enough. The first curveball in Master Course is round 6. We're fighting the Berserker, a boss that can inflict rot. What sucks here is that status effects that we get carry over to the next round. If we get rotted this early on, consider the challenge failed. Your offensive capability will be gimped and there's no way to cure it. For this, our first accessory slot goes to the Wonder Amulet. So now Van will block all status ailments. Right after that is Xain, then Dohati, then all the Delilas siblings in a row, and then Zora, the Harpy Lady, and finally the last opponent is Jet. I prefer to think that these bosses actually didn't die when we beat them. Instead, they quietly retired to the Muscle Dome. Can't explain this any other way. The 2 fights against Zora and Jet are the true obstacles to finishing the Muscle Dome. Zora still has her glare, which if you get stoned by this, it's just over. It's why the Wonder Amulet is necessary. And let's not forget their damage. Zora and Jet will tear you apart in just a few turns, so we have to figure out a way to survive, and the solution's actually pretty simple. Van's 2 remaining accessory slots go to the Defender Chain and the Life Grail. Whenever Van gets dangerously low on HP, we'll turtle up for a few turns to slowly regenerate with Life Grail. The Defender Chain will help in blocking a majority of Zora and Jet's attacks, often blocking all of their jabs per turn. But what about their AoEs? Those can't be blocked. Well, as it turns out, all enemies in this game have a hidden MP pool, and using special attacks drains this. Zora and Jet will unleash their AoEs around 5 to 7 times, and from there, it's all normal attacks. This strategy worked for me back then, and it still works now. After 1.5 hours into the challenge, Jet is slain. We win the ultimate prize of the Muscle Dome, a War God icon, and this thing is pure satisfaction. The War God icon has a simple but powerful effect. Your character will do their attack string twice. Behold, 2 miracle arts in a row. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Legend of Legaia. I still think it's an awesome game, although it's easy to recognize its flaws. Combat feels fantastic, sound design is stellar, and the graphics are actually decent. Let's not forget the spooky and grotesque environments too. But the story is kinda mushy and all over the place. The magic system is flawed and grindy, and the overall mechanics of battle is shallow, especially evident by the end. Still, I recommend you try it out. It feels good to play, even after all these years. Whether you finish it or not though is up in the air. Before you go, let me give you this, the War God icon and the Evil Medallion combined. 30 arts, 46 hits. That is peak Legend of Legaia. So thanks for watching. If you want to show some appreciation, throw me a like and subscribe. It'll help me out a lot. I hope you all have a good day. See you next time.